girlies, and welcome back to my naughty little channel. Today, I want to dive really deeply into the spiritual side of beauty. Today, I want to talk about how many times the women who are trying to hold you back from your level up journey are women who have their own spiritual things going on inside. And I will say that examining this can help you understand the dynamics around you, as well as your own commitment and dedication to leveling up. So if this sounds like something that you like to talk about, then stay tuned until the end. So I think of beauty oftentimes as currency, just like money, just like cash. Many people have internalized this deep wound of shame around having an abundance, whether that's an abundance of money, an abundance of beauty, an abundance of time. That's why sometimes we are craving such constant stimulation. We're afraid of idle hands. We're afraid of being bored. Oftentimes, slow living and slow moments can be the thing that really sets you apart. Because in those times, just like when it comes to something like lifting, for example, when it comes to building muscles, a lot of the work is not just what happens in the gym. It's not just what happens in the kitchen, but it's also rest. It's also sleep, restoring your body, giving your systems time to flush out and to rest. That negative space, if you're into art or anything, that emptiness, that empty space where nothing is happening, that stillness balances out all of the motion, all of the action. So, the same is true when it comes to having an abundance of things. When you really take the time to reflect in those slow moments and restore your mind from your productivity and understanding the purpose of it, you put yourself in a position where you get to be a lot more regulated, a lot more strategic, a lot more efficient in accomplishing your goals. When you're able to pause and to reflect on what you want and what's the purpose of you wanting it, what's the outcome of you having it, you make it a lot more real, a lot more concrete. And it makes it easier once you've kind of built that entire world out to bring it from something that's a concept, something that's a thought, a feeling, a fantasy, to a real thing that you have, a real thing that you can touch and smell and feel. Many times when it comes to things like finances, whether it is from religious shame, whether it is from seeing the dangers of, people who make bad decisions under capitalism, many of us have this deep belief that having too much is a bad thing, or having a lot. We put this number in our subconscious somewhere that there's this certain amount that feels like too much. It seems unmanageable. That's why you will have people, if you have even leveled up your finances, you can look back to another version of yourself and realize, wow, what I'm able to hold on to now, what I'm able to grow now, the amounts of money that I'm able to have steadily streaming towards me now, that's a big difference from how it used to be. when you are thinking about people who have had access to a lot of money and done something bad, I think those are typically the examples that are pushed to the forefront. I think it's much more common for us to be able to recall examples of people, whether it's in the media, whether it's in a movie, where with a lot of wealth, with a lot of money, came bad decisions. It came evilness. It came hurting other people, hurting the world, polluting the world in some way. This imbalance of power and using that power to do bad things. A lot of people, if they have internalized that is what happens, the more you get, then there's this sort of inevitability to bad things coming after, then you're going to keep yourself from really having that. You're never going to be able to hold on to, maintain, and grow and progress your finances because you have this block in your subconscious where you're like, if I get more, then that's going to make me a lot more like those people that I don't want to be anything like. If you change and shift your perspective to, well, I am not, those types of people. I am in control of who I am and what I do with my money. That much money in my hands would be an amazing thing for the world, because whereas some people with their money do X, Y, Z, you can say, with my money, I would do this. With my platform, I would do this. This is how I would help and benefit the world. I think that when you're able to have more evidence that you see outside of yourself of people who they level up and they are not then going and being toxic into the world. They're not then going out and, being like Cruella de Vil, hurting animals and stuff. Like, they're not out doing the most evil, treacherous things. You can understand that there is a choice and there is an option. You can choose to be either type of person, but you can't blame money. All of those people who have a lot of money and are bad people, they were bad people when they were poor too. They're going to be broke they're going to be bad people if they're middle class, if they're broke, if they're like completely poor, if they have nothing, they still are that bad person. And we do oftentimes in the media see examples of where people who have very little are always cast forth as being more noble, they're more moral, they're better people, they have better intentions, they're the good person, they're the hero that you want to root for, versus the person who has the wealth, they have the money. They're always depicted, even through the color psychology, through the way that they animate their features, through music. Like, if you pay attention to any sort of movie that you're watching, whether it's animated or it's not, you're going to see how, when it's the person that they want you to root for, they're going to do a certain type of, triumphant music that makes you just like feel all emotional and like, yes, yeah, this is the guy that we're rooting for. Versus they have, when it's the bad person, it's more of like, it may be more bass to the music. It may have different types of intervals that it's using that we more so associate with being more sly, more slick, even hidden intentions or impending doom. We do that. We have this way, even through sound, through color, through light and dark, through images that we have ingrained into our minds. And we've been programmed over time to feel like, money is dirty, money is evil, it's bad, I shouldn't have it. And people feel the same way oftentimes with beauty, even to the point where you will have, someone like Stefco, who has built a lot of her, fame and notoriety on, oh, thank God I don't have that bad thing. Thank God I don't have pretty. Thank God I don't have pretty privilege. Thank God I don't have beauty, because that's such a bad thing. That is such a common type of, I would say, just subconscious block and manifestation of, people's inner thoughts that comes out, where you see people who, whether it's keeping themselves unfit because they feel like there are bad things that come with a fit body, a more desirable body, a healthier body, a smaller body, even in the sense of, I've seen this trend of people online saying, like, almost trying to demonize a healthy body, a fit body, a more like a thinner body, by saying, no, there's no reason that you could actually want a body like that for a moral reason, for a good reason. There's no way that having that body could just be the result of having a healthy inner body that then shows up on the outside as maybe taking up less space, having less inflammation, having less excess fat, because your body's not in survival mode. It's not trying to, prepare for hibernation. It's like, I know I have enough. Some people, they feel so unsafe that their body is preparing for hibernation, like in their own body, instead of them just having, I don't know, like non-perishables in their house. They're going to keep all of the food in their own body, because they feel as though there's going to be a time that they have to reach for it, and they're in such survival mode that they won't even be able to go to their kitchen, to the pantry, to get the food, to make it then. It's got to be in their body right then and there. And that just goes to show the difference between those two states, between, somebody who's trying to push this narrative out into the world that having these things, having health, having beauty, having, proper finances, but I specifically want to talk about beauty, that those things, it's like a coping mechanism, because I feel as though it's difficult to attain. I am then going to make it associated with bad things. I'm going to amplify and only focus on the times when those things coexist with negativity. When I think that people have made it to even having a certain type of body type is like, oh, the only reason you want that type of body type is because you're trying to infantilize yourself, and because, creepy men want a smaller, more controllable body. And even that thinking of, I need to have this big, bulky, hard to like hurt or move body in order to keep myself safe, because my environment is not safe enough. I don't feel protected enough. I don't feel like I have the means of keeping myself safe enough in order to be able to survive in a smaller body. Or, I'm going to enable myself to eat like I'm preparing for hibernation by saying that, well, if I don't eat that way, then I'm going to tie it to, PDF files and things like that, just to make this whole grand coping mechanism and this defense as to why you don't have to do better, or why it's a bad thing to have those things. But I think the same way that I drew out with finances, that you could think of it as, well, how can the world actually become a better place as a result of me having more money? What could the world benefit to have all of that money in my hands? The same thing with beauty. The way that we depict people with money in the media as being bad, we do the same thing with beauty. Literally, we have Mean Girls, an entire production, or I don't know if it came from a book or how that came to be, but that whole show symbolizing, oh, well, you have beauty, but you're mean. So, that makes you like this bad thing than everybody else, like, because they are not conventionally attractive. They're more noble people. They're good people. They're better people. And they're just more authentic and they're cooler because they're not conventionally attractive is the whole thing. And so oftentimes we have this subconscious block with beauty as well, where it's like, well, that level of beauty is going to come with this amount of attention. It's going to come with this amount of judgment. It's going to come with people feeling this level of entitlement, because the same way that people are always plotting and scheming to get access to large sums of money, the same thing will happen with people plotting and scheming to get access to or control over, to gain control over and dominance over beauty as well. Somebody that they deem to be more beautiful, because they know that that's why we have things like the fashion industry, people doing editorials, people modeling, people doing ad campaigns, brand deals and partnerships. People want, their message to be coming out of your mouth. They want you to be the one saying it. That's even why you have in the music industry, there's all of this, drama that happens and conspiracy theories that come out over the years about, what people having a lot of drama and legal issues over having the access to their masters, and to and having the right to get paid and to use and repurpose their image. And a lot of these people, people don't empathize because they are more so in the mindset where they're trying to keep themselves from reaching this level of beauty that they associate with being dehumanized, being hypervisible, being, very much someone who's judged, someone who's put up on a pedestal and not allowed to come down from it, not allowed to be human, or someone who everybody wants access to. People, they associate all of these bad things where they don't think about the positives that can come from, if you have all that beauty, then what can you do with it? Well, then you can inspire people, you can help people, you can, whatever field it is that you want to go into, you can do it just from a place that makes you someone that, I don't know, people oftentimes can hear a message from a lot easier, depending on what it is you're talking about. Sometimes your beauty will almost serve to discredit you, because in the field, the subject matter, the topic that you're talking about, your beauty ends up being very triggering. That's what happens with a lot of the women who do show their faces and they are, into the psychology type of niche, or dating, relationships. Oftentimes women who talk about that, even if it's being like some sort of like marriage, relationship, family, therapist, and all of those spaces, that is actually a trend that I have noticed personally. Looking at women like Sadia Khan, looking at women like Cheyenne Bryant, both extremely conventionally attractive women who, if I'm not mistaken, I've paid attention to both of their stories, and it seemed like both of them in the field of psychology seem to have this passion for and wanting to help with relationships, with marriage, with family, all of these things. They both seem to have a lot of, even though they don't focus on exactly the same thing, Cheyenne Bryant, she talks a lot about being functional, highly functional. And, Sadia Khan, I feel like speaks a lot about, balance and desires and this exchange. They both, in a way, talk about functionality and things having some sort of cyclical nature, some sort of like systemic way that they run so that everything just works out. And I noticed that it seemed like both of them, in one way or another in their careers, have had to sort of pivot because, most people, just like I'm saying, their beauty will trigger in that field. People who are going in a heterosexual relationship in a shaky place, they don't want to go into they probably don't want to go into the therapist's office. And the therapist just, certain things, it's like what everything she could be saying is so valid, so true. But some people, they don't want to hear it from you, though. They don't want to hear your perspective. They feel like, well, of course you feel like this, or, oh, you must have another motive, or, oh, I associate, I project all of these other traits and whatnot onto a person, a woman who looks like you. So your voice is less valid. I don't want to hear it from you. I'm going to attack your credentials. I'm going to do this or that or the third, whatever. Whether or not they truly are credentialed, I just happen to notice a very similar pattern in both of those. That just came to me just now. I just realized how I think even in that, they are women who they pivoted to more so being speakers and taking control of their platforms in a certain type of way. And I think that they both seem to have been able to reach certain levels of success for themselves, where they seem to understand and have unlocked that while everyone may not be able to receive this message simply because it's coming from me, I still believe that me taking care of myself, me pouring into myself, me being this beautiful woman, I can use this and go into the world. I can step into the world every day and, maybe it's messed up that the world needs me to look like this to give this message, but hey, you need the message. I would like to share the message. I truly believe that I'm helping the world by putting out this message. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I think that when you just think deeper on almost like you're convincing yourself of it, a lot of people think so negatively of the pursuit of beauty. A lot of people feel like you're not making the world a better place by you doing this, that, and the third. Well, maybe they aren't, but they're not making it. I truly believe that if you're the type of person who would be a difference maker anyway, if you would be changing the world anyways, then you're going to do much better changing the world. I think when you care about your presentation and when you are beautiful. So those people who feel like it's so insignificant to be beautiful, well, they probably as a whole are insignificant. So whether or not they put time or energy into their appearance is probably insignificant to the grand scheme of things. But maybe for you, you will touch more people through being this version of yourself. So what do you think, worldies? Do you think that you have any sort of subconscious blocks that are keeping you from experiencing something that you feel like you should want, but you think that there are things that you don't want to experience and you're scared of happening that keep you from actually getting your hands on it? What do you think is the worst possible thing that could happen if you really level up and become the woman of your dreams, aesthetically speaking? Now, what is the best thing that you think can happen when you unlock that? Let's talk about that down in the comments below. And until next time, worldies, eyes on the prize.